So one day, while he claimed he was at work, we went to the hotel he said he worked at. Guess who wasn't there? What's up, YouTube? How we doing? If you are new here, this episode is part of a series. Please go watch parts 1, 2, and 3. I am not recapping every red flag this man has thrown at me, and by this man I mean my crazy ex named Kinto. If you jump in now, you're gonna think I woke up one morning and chose chaos, and I didn't. Chaos chose me. Now let's get into it. So this story is continuing from part 3. Not Me, My Friend is at the girls' bar doing her shift, everything normal, nothing dramatic, and then the door opens. She sees a familiar face, but she doesn't want to believe it. You know, Japan is full of doppelgangers, so she just thought that she was tripping for a second. Nope, she was not mistaken. He walks in and says, Celeste, loud, government name. In a place where she has a code name and customers are not supposed to know who she is outside of that bar, and everyone turns. Co-workers, customers, her manager. The room got quiet real fast. You could actually feel the tension in the air. So she had no choice but to smile and act like everything was fine, even though she wanted to sink into the floor. And she asked him why he was there. How did he even get here? And he says, well, I just wanted to see if you were really working since you hadn't answered my messages in about a week. Mind you, they're in a workplace where nobody understands English, luckily, but they don't need subtitles to clock bad energy. The vibe said everything. So Not Me, My Friend, she is having to treat this situation like nothing is going on, even though everybody could totally tell something was going on, okay? Japanese people are very, very good at reading tension and reading the air, and they read that shit. So, you know, she's smiling and putting on the tatemae face and acting like everything is normal. Not everything is okay. So she asks, do you want a quick drink before you go? And he says, well, I'm not leaving until you get off of work. And some people like really turned around when he said that. Like, what the, like, you know, Japanese people in general don't understand English, but if it's simple English, like something like that, I think they can understand it. So she was just like, okay, and pulled up a chair for him, smiled through it. So he sits down, orders a drink, and her manager is standing right beside her, and Kinto's eyes were fixated on her manager, and Kinto is trying to figure out my entire relationship history just by staring at him. Now obviously my manager is getting uncomfortable, so I introduce them because I have no other choice. So I say, oh, you know, Kinto, this is my manager. I'm not gonna say his real name. Kinto, this is my manager, Taiki. Taiki, this is Kinto. And you know, they do the whole Japanese greeting towards each other. Even though there was tension, they kept it very cordial. Her manager is very polite, but he looks confused. Okay, I'm tired at this point. My manager is very polite, but he looks confused. He can tell something is off. Okay, Japanese people are, once again, great at picking up tension, even if no one says a word. So then Kinto starts interrogating him. Where do you live? Do you have a girlfriend? Where did you go to university? What business do you have with, I'm not gonna use my real code name, but what business do you have with Momo? Let's just say that was my code name for the shop. And nobody asked for this. And my coworker was standing right next to me and looked highly uncomfortable and didn't know what the hell was going on. So now I'm stuck trying to keep the atmosphere light so my customers and the other girls' customers don't start leaving. But I'm literally standing between a jealous boyfriend and my manager who is just trying to do his job. What do I do at this point, right? So, you know, so the drinks start hitting and he shifts into his usual behavior. passive aggressive, snide comments. Now, normally this behavior is just between us in private, but because there's alcohol and jealousy involved, oh, he made this public. And yes, he embarrassed the fuck out of me at work. So it's me, my manager, and one other coworker who are at my seat. And he's making his snide comments, but the one that kind of struck a chord with me, my manager, and my coworker is he called me in front of everybody a yariman. Now, a yariman is basically saying I'm easy and I'm a hoe, and I just go around having sex. Whatever you want to call it. So my coworkers were literally uncomfortable, coworkers being my manager and the other girl, uncomfortable and telling him that that was not a good thing to say. Don't say that. They don't want drama on the clock either. So they kind of nervously laughed, but was serious, telling him not to say these things. So at that point, I really knew that he was not leaving unless I did. So I pulled my manager aside and asked if I could go home early. He didn't even question it. He clearly saw something was wrong, and he told me to just leave and message him when I got home, or better yet, call. So me and Kinto, we get into the taxi, and the ride was silent. Not peaceful silent, the kind where you knew something was coming. The second we walked into my apartment, he slammed the door and blew up. He accused me of sleeping with my manager, said he could feel it. The way that we looked at each other, he called me disgusting. He insulted my coworkers, said I was influenced by whores. Meanwhile, this man has never paid a single bill in my house, eating my food, slept in my bed, dragged me into arguments I did not start, and he still feels entitled to disrespect me. Now, although I had not spoken to him for a week, this night is where it just kind of broke me, because he really at this point had crossed a boundary that just did not need to be crossed. He showed up at my job, stayed when he obviously was not welcome, and then just embarrassed me in front of people I'm not even like close with like that. So at this point, I just really didn't want to hear anything else he had to say. He could insult me all he wanted to. In my mind, I was just really emotionally clocked out. So with us arguing that night, or better yet, him, because I kind of really wasn't saying anything. I was clocked out. So this man, Mr. Kinto, tried to tell me to sleep somewhere else in my apartment. Sir. I do not live in a mansion. First of all, there is nowhere else, and this is my apartment, my nigga. You can either leave or sleep your ass on the floor. And I told him that. Eventually he moved. He tried to make a fight out of it and was like, what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? And I was like, bro, move. Like, get up. You either move over, sleep on the floor, or leave. Those are your three options right now. So eventually he moved, but the damage was done. I was done. So the next morning comes. Here we go again, YouTube. You already know what he did. Next morning comes. He's trying to be all lovey with me, like nothing happened, and was saying, I'm so sorry for last night. I was stressed. I was worried. I don't want to lose you. I had too much to drink. Same script every time. By the morning, I was still already clocked out. I had enough. Okay? I didn't want to fight, and I didn't want any random outbursts. So I told him, I needed space. And he tried to beg me. He was like, no, I don't want to lose you, please. But I was just like, listen, I'm just saying I need space right now. This is not exactly a breakup, but this is an evaluation period. Give me 2 weeks and then we can come back to this. But for right now, I really just need space. And so he calmed down and he agreed. But then he tried to get me to promise to not talk to other men. I didn't promise him anything. I was not going to do that. Now, granted, I wasn't going to do it anyways because I am a lady. I do not open my legs for any man. But anyways, he finally left. And the second that door closed and he left my apartment, it felt lighter. It felt like my apartment itself was sighing in relief. That's how draining he was, YouTube. The room felt relieved. when he was gone. Now, when it came to my relationships and friendships around this situation, my Japanese friends didn't really know much about it because I didn't really feel so close enough with them to tell them about it. But I did have one friend who spoke English and lived abroad. Her name is Risa, and she was the one friend I hung out with the most. Now, my anxiety didn't start after the bar incident. It actually started before it. Even before he popped up at my job, his behavior had me walking around like I was waiting on a jump scare. That man really did have me living on the edge. And when I met up with my friend Risa one afternoon, and remember, this is before the girls' bar pop up, and she looked at me across the table and said, "You look anxious. Are you okay? Like, why do you keep looking around?" And I was just like, "Oh no, I thought I just saw something, whatever." I was not okay. I didn't tell her the full story at that time, but she could definitely feel something was off. And that's how warped the situation already was before the pop-up. And when the pop-up happened, it was and wasn't a shock. It was the thing I was afraid was going to happen. Now, going back to after he left my apartment, I did not see him for 2 weeks, and I had a personal reset. Now that I knew that we were in evaluation mode, my nerves kind of calmed down. And after that night, I told him I need space, real space, not silent treatment still lurking outside of my door, but actual distance. So for those 2 weeks, we didn't see each other. In the first time in months, I felt like I could actually breathe. I didn't sit around crying. I got back to myself. I signed up for a dance studio. I started taking classes again. I exercised more. I focused on my day job. I started focusing on gaining some weight back and feeling confident again. My mood just shifted like someone finally cracked a window open in a room with no air, YouTube. And it was the first time I realized how mentally heavy that relationship had been when he wasn't around. My personality came back. And sometimes you're in relationships with people because you're trying to fill a void or you don't want to be lonely. But when you finally do get that alone time, it just it weans you off the codependency that you have towards a person. So even though I know 2 weeks isn't a long time, but it's enough to realize you got some breathing room, especially when we were under the notion that we were not gonna be on speaking terms. And also during the break, it had been a while since I showed my face at the girls' bar because I couldn't face it. I was still embarrassed. I know my coworkers, customers, my manager, they could feel the vibe and feel that something was off, something wasn't right, and I just couldn't face myself to explain it, and I couldn't pretend like it was just nothing. So along with the break that I had with Kinto, I also had it at the bar. But my manager reached out, and of course, outside of working hours, because I wasn't working at that time, he asked me out to dinner. Nothing romantic. It was completely platonic. He wanted to see me. He wanted to talk to me and kind of just figure out if I was okay. He wasn't even trying to get nosy. He just genuinely wanted to know if I was okay. I had explained to my manager what was going on between me and Kinto. And my manager honestly is the first like Japanese person that didn't speak English or lived abroad or had an open mind or anything. He was the first person that I explained this to and eventually knew what was going on between me and Kinto. I told him about the arguments, the insecurity, the distrust, the just everything, him staying at my place. I had spilled all the beans when we were having dinner. First of all, he was kind of in shock because with my positive energy and the way that I was coming into my shifts, he would have never guessed it. Now I had just told my manager this situation, so of course he hadn't really had time to process it. But honestly, he was very, very concerned. And I told him about the break. Essentially what he was saying, because of the situation and how bad it is, it's best for the break to stay permanent. Is what he said. When we were done, he actually took the train home back with me, walked me home and everything, and told me to call him if I have any trouble, if I need any, just to call him. So after that, I really felt a relief that I was able to tell somebody and not feel judged for it, because at the time most of my friends were Japanese and women, and I don't know, I just really don't feel like I can be that open. And so when I had opened up to my manager, I didn't feel like I was trauma dumping. He called me to that dinner for a reason, because of his own concern. He wanted me to tell him what was going on because he saw it in 4K. And after I told him, I didn't feel judged. I felt safe. And if I had told any of my other friends that, it wouldn't be that same feeling. Now, of course, like with Risa, it was different because she was actually my friend and she would have expressed concern if I told her that, but I'm just the kind of person who I'm afraid to put concern on people. I don't like to be a burden, especially to people that I care about. But it's like, if you really press me for the information, then I'll spill the beans. Anyways, that was a really good night. When I got home, I felt safe, I felt relieved, and I really just felt like I could frolic my way through this break, and whatever the outcome would be, I'd be fine with it. So after the 2-week break, when I was finally getting my life together, he messaged me right on the dot, "I miss you. Can we talk?" Now, like a delusional clown with hope issues, I agreed. But I told him if I meet him anywhere, it has to be in a public place, okay? We're not meeting at my house. And he agreed. So we met at a cafe, and he was calm and apologetic. Apologizing, saying he wants to do better, offering compromise, saying he'll stop the pop-ups and outbursts. And I told him if we were going to continue, there were certain boundaries I needed. He can't come to my place all the time and be disrespectful. I needed to see his place. Remember this, chat, okay? Put a pin here. I needed to see his place. No more yelling or accusations, and no more surprise appearances anywhere. But he agreed to these conditions, but his whole face changed when I mentioned seeing his house. Then he dropped the excuse saying, "Okay, I'm fine with everything, but about you coming to my house, it's very tiny and dirty, and I live in an old place where the landlord is an old man and I live right next to him, and he doesn't really allow guests over, so he'll get angry if you sleep over." Okay, listen, that never made any sense, but I let it slide at the moment because I was just exhausted and I just really didn't want to push it further. I didn't want to milk anything, so I was just like, all right. So we got back together. Yes, I know, YouTube. This is not it, okay? I know you were thinking that this was going to be the breakup story, but we are not really even close to that yet. So we got back together. But when we got back together, something was different, and not in a good way. He was distant, less affectionate, barely messaging. Like the messages were very, very spaced out and not coming over like before. Now, I know I told him that I didn't really want him coming over as often and fogging up the space like he usually does, but like he was like actually not coming over. And so I asked him, what's going on and why are we not seeing each other as normally? And he said that he picked up more shifts at the hotel because it's getting into a very busy season and people quit, so he had to take on more work, and it even got to the point where he had to sleep at the hotel. Does this sound right to you, YouTube? Because it sure didn't sound right to me. Even though in 2022 and 2023 I was naive, that didn't sound right. So I told my friend Lisa, and she said, that sounds like a fucking lie. So, with that being said, me and Lisa, we decided to go on a little adventure. So one day we did what needed to be done. So one day, while he claimed he was at work, we went to the hotel he said he worked at. Guess who wasn't there? Exactly. Kinto was not at work like he said he was. Part 5 is going to expose all of this, because at this point, the lies weren't adding up. And what we found next, Let's just say he wasn't the only one living a double life. All right, YouTube, that is it for part 4. I will see you in part 5. Bye.